It's hard to forget.
This game is like being on an acid trip straight out of the fucking Matrix. From the very moment you walk into the hotel, your senses are just overwhelmed. From the very first call that Dan receives from his son, you get totally confused. But by the end, this game comes together in ways that are pretty compelling. The game touches on immortality in an all-digital world. The world seems to be on the brink of collapse from a disease called the nanophage. It affects anyone who has cybernetic implants when the nanites in the tech begin to fight the body as the body begins to fight back in return. The lore of the game world is pretty enticing, but the game doesn't get extremely deep into it.
Attention, citizens. Curfew is now in effect in all Class C districts. Remain in your apartments and enjoy your chosen holographic content. Thank you for your cooperation.
Can you hear me? Come here.
I would like to start off by talking about the visuals. Well, really showing off the visuals of the game.
Hold it steady, goddammit.
Due to YouTube compression, this video won't really do it justice, but the game looks absolutely fucking amazing. And the ray trace reflections, lighting, and shadows make this game a truly 9th gen experience. This game runs at a dynamic 4K resolution with a near perfect 60 FPS. When it comes to how the game looks, I am truly impressed. This game may not quite stand up to a game like Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, but this game doesn't get nearly enough attention for being a 9th gen experience that no other game really offers. This is probably the high point of the game, which is why I started off with it, but that doesn't mean the rest of the game is lacking. It definitely has other highs as well.
Lazarski, you there? Come in, Lazarski.
The story is certainly a roller coaster. It has moments that are extremely compelling and moments of immense tension and suspense. There are more than enough jump scares as well, especially when leeching, but more on that later. The premise of the story is definitely cyberpunk. You play as a detective named Daniel Lazarski. Well, his occupation is actually an observer, thus the name of the game. He is basically a detective with a Dream Eater augmentation so he can link into people's neural implants and dive deeper than a normal officer can. It works on the living and the recently deceased. This is the leeching I was speaking of earlier, and it's trippy as hell when Dan goes inside of people's heads. So the story begins with Dan receiving a phone call from his estranged son, Adam. with a very cryptic message. After some sort of personal computer in Dan's head called the Matriarch pinpoints the location of the call, the game really begins. Adam was staying in a hotel or apartment complex in the slums of the city. There seems to be a class system in the game world, A through D, and this was a class D. So this was the lowest of the shitholes in the game the world has to offer. Dan shows up and locates Adam's place. Upon entering, he sees the place is ransacked and completely destroyed. Once entering the living area, Dan notices a dead body on the ground with the head missing, covered in lacerations, surrounded by mystery blood and hairs. This is where you first learn of your three visions: cybernetic, biological, and night vision. Dan, of course, hopes the dead body isn't his son, but it doesn't look good, so the investigation begins. This is the main investigation of the game, but along the way, you pick up others by talking to Adam's neighbors in the complex, and you talk to a lot of neighbors. Finding the main killer is actually a lot of fun and trippy as hell. The side investigations are kind of hit or miss, but the game's story definitely kept me coming back and staying up late to find the next clue. The ending is a bit of a twist that some may see coming, but it's a cool spin on immortality and what it does or doesn't cross the line of still being human. Now let's talk about gameplay. The gameplay is pretty engaging and fairly interactive. Just to open doors, you have to click on the handle with the R2 button and move the right stick in the way you need to open it. This works with doors, fridges, cabinets, pretty much anything on a hinge. This is the most interactive part of the game, but the rest is still engaging. I really enjoy all the little puzzles to be able to progress to the next clue or stage of investigation. The variety in investigations and puzzles is pretty good for a AA game that truly looks AAA. There is also no pausing the game to look at menus. Instead, Dan pulls up a virtual Pip-Boy on his wrist when you want to see the case files and objectives. There is also no minimap or compass, so to figure things out you have to actually use your brain, which I truly enjoyed and made me miss games of yesteryear before Ubisoft mainstreamed objective markers and minimaps. There is no combat. There are moments of stealth and you can die, but there is no combat. The leeching and reliving other people's memories is truly a cool feature, much better than the brain dance of Cyberpunk. So all in all, gameplay is engaging and fun most of the time. It definitely has its lows, but overall not bad, and I would truly recommend this game purely based on its gameplay. So to wrap it all up, if you have a PS5, I definitely recommend this game for you. As far as visuals go, this game has very few competing with it. Even with the likes of Demon's Souls and Rift Apart out there, I would say this is definitely a standout, especially for its art style. When it comes to gameplay, well, that's a little more decisive, especially when compared to the visuals or the story. The story is pretty good, and subjectively, you may not like it, but I did. So if you trust my opinion, then I recommend this story to you wholeheartedly. As always, my friends, stay safe, stay healthy, and go make some average plays, my friends, and I will catch you on the next one.
What the fuck just happened? How did it get here? Matriarch, give me the duration of the last sequence.
You were connected for 16 minutes and 43 seconds, real time.
16 minutes? Am I losing it?